Good morning, everybody. At the outset, I'd like to thank Dr. Jayashree for including me in this initiation course. As already been dealt, we have seen OrbScan and Pentacam. Now this is another system where it's a combination of Placidodisk and the Scheimpflug imaging system. They both the reflection as well as the elevation system. Here, the working distance is around 80 millimeters. The acquisition is less than 1 second. It analyzes more than 1 lakh points, and then there are about 22 cluster rings, and it measures from 0.4 to 12 millimeter diameter of the cornea, and the diopters measure up to 1 to 100 diopters. Why this combination is required compared to the Pentacam? So here the vital information that we get from the reflection topography, that is the Placidodisk topography, like the curvature, the corneal wavefront, the refractive and anterior power, and all these things are missed by the Scheimpflug, and the Scheimpflug, whatever data we get, both are combined, and so that we get a proper information. So here these are the single maps which are available like in the previous Pentacam. It can be the curvature maps or elevation maps. It also gives other details which I'll come to that. So this is exactly how the map looks. One is the pachymetry map, other one is the curvature map. Then there are anterior elevation and one the posterior elevation. And then if you look at the indices, it gives a horizontal white measurement. It gives the thinnest location of the cornea, and then the anterior chamber depth, both from epithelium to the lens as well as from the endothelium. So it gives actually for ICL implantation we need from endothelium to the anterior capsule. That is also given. So then other indices are similar to what the previous speakers mentioned, like SIMK, and then there's something called as AME meridian or semi-meridian, where the one single semi-meridian of the particular area, say in 3 millimeters or 5 millimeters, 7 millimeters is studied, and then the difference between the powers is given. And then there are other indices which are very particular, which are very important. There's something like the flat radius and the steep radius. The RMS value of this, if it is 0, it's a normal, or if it is more than that, then it is the irregular surface. You see the red flag there, which suggests that. And there are other important indices like the mean pupil power, which is like what Dr. Prashant said, like true net power, which can be utilized for the eyeball power calculations post-refractive surgery, as well as it suggests whether the central part is ectatic or not ectatic. Then we have the irregularity of the curvature, then symmetry, surface asymmetry index, which also, if they are not normal, then again it suggests ectasia. Now there is a keratoconus screening, which includes all these things, like the symmetry index of the front and the back surface, then the steepest point of the ectasia of the cornea of the front as well as the back, and there is something called as BCV index. So this is nothing but the altimetric values, using the corneal wavefront, corneal aperometry. So these values also, along with that thinnest portion of the cornea, the thickness of the cornea is also included, and then based on that the classification is made. So BCV basically stands for the three scientists who have introduced this, for the front surface, for the back surface, as well as this average of this is also given. So this is how the keratoconus screening looks like. The top two are the curvature maps, then the middle two are, one is anterior elevation, other one is the posterior elevation, and then the fifth one is the pachymetry map, where it's the difference between the normal and the observed pachymetry value, and the other one is where all these, the thinnest point, the steepest point, all these they come to one particular area, along with the Placido rings, which tells us whether the ectasia is in the same area or not. And then these are the cutoff values which are given. Based on this, the system decides whether it is suspect keratoconus, normal, or the keratoconus proper. Then there is a support vector machine which analyzes all this data, and it has been studied that the sensitivity and specificity of this is quite good. So based on this, the tomography tells whether it is normal or it is suspect keratoconus or keratoconus compatible or it is abnormal or treated. Now let us go through some examples here. Yeah, here this is the pachymetry map, and this is the curvature, the keratometry map, where you see the symmetric bow tie. This is anterior elevation, this is the posterior elevation, both look normal. And this is the keratoconus screening, where the points are quite different and they are not at the same place. So this is we can pass it off as a normal map. Whereas if you see here, there is slight ectasia in the anterior as well as the posterior. And then in the curvature map also shows a slight ectasia there. And then the keratoconus, you see all these points, they are coming together at one place. So this can be a form fresh keratoconus. This is another interesting case. A patient with a -3 Raptus sphere and one cylinder we have been following him up for last 1.5 years, but still the power has not changed. The refractive power has not changed. If you see here, definitely there is a ectasia as far as the curvature map is concerned, but the elevation maps, they are not very, except here the posterior elevation again shows some amount of posterior elevation map, so it shows some amount of ectasia. If we change the best fit sphere to aspiratoric, then these features get exaggerated. Now you can very clearly see that the anterior as well as the posterior shows high elevation. Same thing, if you see this is the keratoconus follow-up map, what Dr. Jayashil mentioned. If you see here, the irregularity of the symmetry index has increased from 450 to 560, and then it has gone up. So over a period of 1 year. So this is a patient, even though the refractive power is normal, stable, he requires collagen cross-linking to stabilize that. He is a 20 years old student. So this is another patient. This is for the follow-up of those patients who have undergone collagen cross-linking, how they fare over a period of time. So this is a patient with keratoconus, established keratoconus. He underwent collagen cross-linking. If you see here, there is a flattening, excessive flattening in this area following the keratoconus, and then the same thing is shown here. This is the follow-up. You see the irregularity has gone to the negative side. You see this is pre-op, and so you see the post-op. The values have gone to the negative side. Whereas this patient, after collagen cross-linking, you see here it is stable over a period of time. This is for the front and this for the posterior surface. Whereas another case where after the collagen cross-linking, after a certain period, again the ectasia started increasing. So that means this condition is not stable, so needs to be treated again. This is a case of post-LASIK ectasia. If you see here, all the features, all the points, they fall in one place. So this particular topography can also can be used for wavefront analysis, corneal wavefront analysis. Based on this, the wavefront guided treatment can be done. And then other advantages already Dr. Jayashil has mentioned. The ICL, it can be worked up for ICL. It gives the angle. After the replacement of the ICL, the angle gets reduced by about 30%. So in case if this is 40 and then if it gets reduced, post-op, say for example here it is around 35, which is normal, post-ICL. Suppose if it gets reduced, it comes to say, for example, here it is 25. So anything less than 20 is abnormal. This patient is likely to develop angle closure glaucoma. So for example, here it is 14. It's very, very narrow. So this patient needs to be observed. And then this also has got a pupillometry, which tells us this, what is the scotopic pupil size, what is the mesopic pupil size, and what is the photopic. So based on this, we can decide what with the given optic zone, what should be the. So now we also have a feature of static cyclotorsion, so all the high astigmatisms can be treated properly. This has been compared with other machines as far as the corneal thickness is concerned, as far as the repeatability is concerned. Results are excellent. So to summarize, it's a combination of a plasmon elevation topography which gives a lot of information, and then it's best for keratoconus assessment and follow-up. It's ideal for posterior severe treatment as well as follow-up, as well as the post-ICL follow-up. Static and dynamic pupillometry is advantageous. It provides data on static cyclotorsion treatment. So in conclusion, I will say Cirrus topographer, which is a combination of a placido-based and a Scheimpflug-based system, is highly versatile and provides excellent data, thus helping thorough evaluation prior to refractive surgery. Thank you.